We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day is going well. It is Tuesday, but it's the official start of the week because yesterday, of course, was a holiday. I got to be honest with you. I debated whether or not I would even do a podcast tonight. Because of the holiday weekend, there's not a lot going on in terms of the news. There's a few things that we'll talk about. I haven't been feeling well, so it's harder for me to talk in length without starting coughing and that sort of thing. And that's annoying to me. It's certainly got to be annoying to you. Um, and more importantly than that, it was a busy fucking day. I'm a busy motherfucking man. At least I was yesterday. It was my wife's 65th birthday. Now we're both 65. I explained to her something that was interesting that when we first met, 21 was our cumulative age was 42, and now it's 130. Fucking A. Anyway, it was her birthday, and you got to address your wife's birthday. That's just the way it goes. Secondly, we had breakfast with my son, my pregnant daughter-in-law who's about to give birth in the next week or so, and my granddaughter. That was kind of a nice thing. We went to OPH, Original Pancake House. Fucking place is packed on a Memorial Day. I got to tell you, thankfully we had reservations. So we have lunch or breakfast there. And then after that, we go to the park with my granddaughter, and we're playing in the park with my granddaughter. My granddaughter walks up to me and says, "Grandpa, please, please, please tell me you brought me a treat today." I said, "Of course I did. I always bring you a treat." And I pulled out the sucker. And I said, "If you behave, I'll give this to your daddy, and your daddy will give it to you later on." She says, "All right, I knew you would bring one." Uh, and she looks at my son. She goes, "See, I told you he would bring one." And and she told me a little story. I mean, this girl is like Pavlov's dog. You give her a treat, she'll do whatever you want. She says, the other day I was at home and I was climbing on a tree and my mom said, "Get down." And she says, I ignored her and I kept climbing on the tree. And then my brother comes along and says, "If you don't get down, you're not going to get any ice cream." So I got down. She's a little manipulator. There's no question about that. So we played at the park for a while. Then my wife and I got in the car and we went to the Women's Professional Hockey Championship. The Minnesota Frost playing the Ottawa Charge in St. Paul at the XL Center. And this was, I don't know, game 4 or 5. You had to win 3 out of 5. This is game 4. And so if the Frost won today, they would be once again the champions of the PWHL for the second year. Those are the first 2 years, and they won. My wife was excited. I was excited. We had a great time at this game. But the day wasn't over. After that, we left the game and then we went to a restaurant bar, met up with my brother and some other friends, and we watched the Timberwolves game, a game they needed to win over OKC to tie things up, um, or at least get a little ahead in the series. Well, of course, the Timberwolves lost, and that sucked. But I got home here at about 11:30 p.m. So, needless to say, I didn't have a lot of time to focus on anything that was really going on in news. And frankly, there wasn't a lot. I mean, there was some things going on in the news, and we're going to talk about them in a moment. But here we are. Here we are. I have no guests, nothing really planned other than looking at some of the news that's going on. So there's an excellent shot that this is going to be a shorter podcast. This whole weekend has been kind of a throwaway because of what little's been going on and how I'm feeling and things I'm having to do. But I will tell you this, things will get back to normal today as you're listening to this. Normal number of TikToks, YouTube, and we'll do normal podcast. I debated whether to do this podcast, but I've remembered what happens when I don't do a podcast. And it doesn't happen very often. I can't think of the last time it's happened. But immediately after not doing a podcast or not doing TikToks, people start reaching out to me. Dude, you okay? Are you dead? I'm perfectly fine. Little sicker than I'd like to be, but not too bad. Getting better. But I was busy and I just wasn't feeling it. Yet here I am. We are talking, and we'll talk about some of the shit that's going on. So, because there's some absolute goofy shit. I will say this up front. If there's any question in anybody's mind right now, whether or not Donald Trump has completely lost it or not, I don't know what you're watching. Because the fact of the matter is Donald Trump continues to be unhinged and say some crazy things. And things aren't really working out well for him. So you can understand why he might be feeling that way. Now, of course, yesterday was Memorial Day, and it's an important day. Day we pay homage to those men and women who fought in wars to keep our country secure and safe. Little did we know we'd have a president and a party that would attack this country. They've done everything they can for people internationally, overseas, the wars we've had to fight in and just protecting us. And we wish them the best. Um, they frankly deserve better treatment than they're getting in this country currently. And I hope that changes. So, Donald Trump, as President of the United States, of course, has to make an announcement about Memorial Day. I mean, that's what presidents do. They make a nice statement. They pay homage to men and women of the military, and it's all good. Trouble is with Donald Trump, it never turns out right. As I've told you many times before, if it can be fucked up, Donnie Trump will fuck it up. So Donald Trump kicked off his Memorial Day by suggesting former President Joe Biden and U.S. judges were scum for opposing his immigration policies. Well, that's sweet. This is what he wrote. Happy Memorial Day to all, including the scum that spent the last 4 years trying to destroy our country through warped radical left minds who allowed 21 million people to illegally enter the country. The president ran it on Truth Social instead of remembering the service members who died serving the country. In a reference to Biden, Trump argued only an incompetent president would have allowed an open border. Yeah. It's funny he would use that term incompetent because Donald Trump is the essence, the quintessential incompetent president of the United States. There has been no president more incompetent than Donald Trump. And frankly, we've had some fucking dumb ones. Not mention any names, George W. Bush or some of the others. But Donald Trump is certainly the most incompetent. What troubles me about that Truth Social post is not what he's calling Joe Biden or the judges. We expect that out of him. The total disregard of the men and women of our military. He keeps telling us that he supports the military more than anybody ever has. Oh yeah, you put Pete Hegseth in charge of the military. Somebody, the only person I can think of that's more incompetent than you. And then when you make an announcement from your official communique, which is Truth Social for some fucking reason, you don't even mention the military. Happy Memorial Day, and then you go on and rant and rip other people. I'm really troubled by the disrespect he has for the people of the military. The Republicans and Donald Trump keep telling us how much they support him, but they keep taking away their rights, taking away their money, taking away their health care. Donald Trump's called them losers and suckers. This doesn't sound like somebody who supports the military, and Donald Trump certainly does not support the military. It's frustrating watching him do this sort of thing and then tell us just the opposite. Oh, I support the military. What's even more frustrating, there is a certain faction of people in this country that believe what he's saying, even though they see and hear what they hear. It's troubling. We do have an epidemic of stupid in this country. There is no question about that. It's unfortunate. Now, we are hearing that even some Republicans are starting to get a little annoyed, maybe had enough of Donald Trump. Top Senate Republican pleads with Trump to take action to stop Putin killing innocent people. Senator Chuck Grassley, the guy that's older than chocolate chip cookies is, the analytical Iowan Eric would say, called on Monday for President Donald Trump to at least put more sanctions on Russia following Vladimir Putin's latest attack on Ukraine. I've had enough of Putin killing innocent people. President Trump take action, at least sanctions, wrote Grassley. Now, Trump also expressed his anger at Putin in a social media post on Sunday, writing, I've always had a very good relationship with Vladimir Putin of Russia, but something has happened to him. Oh, really? Something's changed? That's a problem, Donnie. Donnie, nothing has changed. You just hadn't recognized it. He has gone absolutely crazy. That's what Donald Trump said. He is needlessly killing a lot of people, and I'm not just talking about soldiers. Missiles and drones are being shot into cities in Ukraine for no reason whatsoever. I've always said that he wants all of Ukraine, not just a piece of it, and maybe that's proving to be right. And if he does, it will lead to the downfall of Russia. Likewise, President Zelensky is doing his country no favors by talking the way he does. Everything out of his mouth causes problems. I don't like it, and it better stop. Oh, really, Donnie? What are you going to do? Stop the war in 24 hours? This is a war that would never have started if I were president. Well, you're president now. Why hasn't it stopped? This is Zelensky's, Putin, and Biden's war, not Trump's. I'm only helping out the big and ugly, put out the big and ugly fires, and they have been started through gross incompetence and hatred, Trump concluded. Well, Donnie, I'll remind you, you said that 24 hours after you were elected, you would stop this war. Clearly, that's not the case. You said you could make a single phone call and work this whole thing out. Now, you're suggesting that you're surprised by how Vladimir Putin's acting. Vladimir Putin's not acting any differently than he ever has in decades that he's been in power. Maybe you hadn't noticed, maybe you weren't aware of him being a murderous dictator, but that's what he's been. He's always been that. And to think he would act otherwise just because he's your BFF, that shows how incompetent and naive you truly are. You're frustrated right now because you can't end this war and look like the hero. You need somebody to give a little bit. Zelensky's not going to give up his country. Why should he? And Vladimir Putin's not going to do what you ask him to do. He never was going to do that. He never will do that. He's trying to take over Ukraine. It's funny, Donald Trump mentioned, I said he always wants all of Ukraine. No, that's not exactly what you've said. People have pushed back on you with regards to that, and you denied it. Now Donald Trump sees he can't do anything with this. So what does he do? He says, this is Zelensky's, Putin's, and Biden's war, not Trump's. I'm just here to help. You said you'd end the motherfucker. Once again, Donald Trump, you failed. Once again, you're incompetent. Now, Grassley, the chair of the Judiciary Committee and president pro tempore of the Senate, also called for Trump to take action back in late April. I've seen enough killing of innocent Ukraine women and children. Now, Donald Trump will tell us they are the villains. They are the people that are doing the attacking. It's not true. Chuck Grassley, a Republican who's about 150 years old, is even admitting to that. President Trump, please put the toughest of sanctions on Putin. You ought to see from clear evidence that he's playing America as a patsy. Well, no shit. You think he's playing Donald Trump in America? Well, he can't play America unless Donald Trump allowed him to do that. And Donald Trump has allowed him to do that. Grassley's comments come after Russia launched its biggest drone attack yet on Ukraine, with some 900 attack drones launched between Friday and Sunday. according to the Ukraine officials. Now, it's funny, Donald Trump had talked to Vladimir Putin and Zelensky, and he suggested that things were going well, that maybe they would have some kind of peace agreement. But guess what? Vladimir Putin is proving otherwise. He's proving otherwise and making Donald Trump look like a fool. And I think this is what bothers Donald Trump more than anything because he's embarrassed now. And Donald Trump will never accept that he's wrong or that he's embarrassed, so he'll try to pawn it off, which is exactly what he's doing by blaming Biden, Zelensky, and Putin and saying he's just an innocent guy trying to do the best he can. So, what I would suggest is that you're not going to see an end to the Ukraine Russia war anytime soon, in spite of what Donald Trump said. In addition to that, you're not going to see an end to the Israeli Hamas war like Donald Trump said he could end. So Donald Trump says if he had been in office, it never would have happened. Well, then why is it still happening? I think that's a fair question, and a question Donald Trump will never fucking answer. We've been hearing a lot about CBS 60 Minutes. Basically, 60 Minutes was a paragon of journalism for decades. And then apparently their parent company told them, you're going to have to lay off Donald Trump. We're in the midst of a merger, and we don't want you picking on Donald Trump. And the problem with that is you can't not talk about Donald Trump and be a journalist because everything in the news has to do with Donald Trump. And if you can't be truthful about it, well, then you're not much of a journalistic paragon anymore. Journalist Scott Pelley, who's on 60 Minutes, or was anyway, accused President Donald Trump of attacking free speech and spreading insidious fear among the public during a commencement address at Wake Forest. I will tell you, Scott Pelley's commencement address went decidedly better than what Donald Trump did with West Point. The speech came as concerns grow over the country's free speech rights amid Trump's targeted attacks aimed at universities over a range of topics, including diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI. Trump and Harvard University currently in a legal battle over enrollment of foreign students. You know what that story is. He's made it so that Harvard can no longer enroll international students. Fact of the matter is 20% of their enrollment is international students, and those students currently going to Harvard, Donald Trump is saying, have to transfer out of Harvard. Talked about this before as to why Donald Trump is doing this. It's all about pettiness. It's all about revenge. Donald Trump would have liked to have gone to Harvard, but he was too stupid to get in. It took his father buying his way into Wharton School of Business, which is not Harvard, in spite of what Donald Trump would suggest. It's a lesser college. It's a good college, but in that college, one of his professors is quoted as saying that he is the dumbest student I've ever had. Anyway, over and above that, recently, Barack Obama, who went to Harvard, his daughter Malia was accepted to Harvard. So at the same time, Barron Trump was trying to gain entrance into Harvard, and they turned him down because apparently he's as dumb as his father. And this is the essence as to why Donald Trump is angry with Harvard. It's all about him. It's all about revenge for them not accepting Barron or Donald Trump at some point. We've got Donald Trump fucking with one of the most important colleges or universities in this country. Some of the most important, wealthy, and powerful people come out of that college. And he decides he's going to go head to head and fuck with it. I will tell you this, it's not going to fare well for Donald Trump. These people are not going to tolerate him destroying their alma mater, especially one as important as Harvard. Now, Pelley went on to say our sacred rule of law is under attack. Journalism is under attack. Universities are under attack. Freedom of speech is under attack. And insidious fear is reaching through our schools, our businesses, and into our private thoughts. The veteran CBS News reporter continued, the fear to speak in America, power can rewrite history with a grotesque false narrative. Without name dropping, Pelley went on to say they can make criminals heroes and heroes criminals, which is exactly what Donald Trump is doing. Most of the people in his cabinet seem to have some criminal background. Power can change the definition of the words we use to describe reality, he said. Pelley then said the old playbook the Trump administration is operating from is nothing new. Diversity is now described as illegal. Equity is to be shunned. Inclusion is a dirty word, he declared. This is an old playbook, my friends. There is nothing new to this. Now, the Trump administration, of course, sparked concern by signing a series of executive orders within the first few weeks of his term regarding DEI. But Scott Pelley's absolutely right. We are in some serious danger here. To our democracy, to our freedom of speech, to any and all freedoms for that matter. I told you this when they overturned Roe v. Wade. I said, regardless of whether or not you support or you're pro abortion or anti abortion, you should be concerned and frightened when the government takes any right, constitutional right, away from you. Because when they do it once, they'll do it again and again. And eventually it will come to one right that you cherish and they will take it away. And that's exactly what's happening as we sit here today. Now, we know how Donald Trump likes to pardon people. And he pardoned somebody recently, just the other day, that is really troubling. Not surprising, but troubling. President Donald Trump announced an unconditional pardon to a former Virginia sheriff who was sentenced last year to years in federal prison on corruption charges. Former Culpeper County Sheriff Scott Jenkins was recently sentenced to a decade in federal prison after he was convicted last year of multiple charges related to accepting bribes in exchange for deputy appointments. Federal prosecutors successfully argued that Jenkins accepted tens of thousands of dollars in cash and campaign contributions in exchange for illegally appointing unqualified donors as auxiliary deputies. This guy was convicted. He's a pig. He's a dirtbag. He was convicted, and Donald Trump said, nah, let's just let him off. He doesn't have to serve the 10 years. He can go ahead and commit these crimes. And I guess it's not surprising that Donald Trump would let somebody like this off because everything he's done is exactly what Donald Trump is doing. He's selling positions, he's selling influence, he's grifting at every turn. And he's putting people in places that aren't qualified for his enrichment or benefit. But Donald Trump just gave this guy a pardon. He was convicted. There was no question that he was a criminal and that he was guilty of this. But Donald Trump said, "Yeah, we'll take this sheriff and we'll cut him a break." Maybe he's hoping that at some point he'll get a break when he most definitely will need one. Because Donald Trump is committing a lot of crimes, not all of which fall under the immunity thing that he got from the Supreme Court. So, if he survives this term, or if he leaves this term early, it is conceivable and likely that he will face some further charges. He will try to wrangle his way out of it, but he won't have the opportunity to say, well, I'm running for president again. When this is done, when his time is done, he's in some deep trouble. He's going to have real problems. And now he lets some boss hog looking motherfucker um, um, uh, out of uh, out of jail that he so deservedly needs, and this guy's going to get off scot free. One of the other things that I think red states are going to start realizing here about their Lord and Savior, Donald Trump, is the situation with natural disasters, hurricanes, tornadoes, fires, that sort of thing. Now, earlier this year, almost 20 tornadoes rampaged across several Mississippi towns, killing 7 people and damaging hundreds of homes. Residents are still waiting for aid from Donald Trump's administration months later. So I've told you before, Donald Trump is transactional. He has no reason to give these people money if he doesn't expect something back. He's going to want his taste, if you will. PBS NewsHour recently reported that even in the deep red southern state where Trump handily won in all 3 of his presidential campaigns, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, has yet to send any aid from Washington. According to PBS, Mississippi Governor Tate Reeves applied for a federal disaster declaration from Trump administration on April 1 for the storms that hit in mid-March, though he has yet to get a response. Tate Reeves is another big dumb motherfucker who follows Donald Trump and supports Donald Trump. He's supposed to be a governor and help his people, but he can if the federal government isn't willing to do that. Trumplefucks thought that Donald Trump was going to press his thumb on the necks of Democrats, but not them. Now they're finding out otherwise. One particularly hard hit area was Tylertown, which is the Walthall County seat in the southern part of the state. I know President Trump said that America first, we're going to help our American folks first, but we haven't seen federal folks down here, Tylertown, Mississippi resident Bobby McGinnis says. I don't know what you got to do or what you got to have to be able to be declared a federal disaster area because this is pretty bad, Tylertown resident Brian Lowry said. We can't help you because whatever we're waiting on a letter, we're waiting on somebody to sign his name, all that. I'm just over it. So you got people in red states that are at a stage where they're frustrated. Dare I say, fucked around and found out. They voted for this clown. They got exactly what they voted for. Now they don't want to hear it. And here's the thing, we're talking about Mississippi here, but let's talk about Kentucky. We had tornadoes in Kentucky. 25 people died. No FEMA help there. There were no people working overnight in the National Weather Service to even give these people warning before these tornadoes hit. That should be illegal because Donald Trump put these people in danger. And the first and foremost job of government is to protect its citizens. In this case, Donald Trump didn't. He didn't protect them, and then when they needed help, he turned his head. Remember when Joe Biden was president and how they kept trying to tell everybody, the Republicans, that Joe Biden wasn't helping out the people of North Carolina because they were Republican? Well, that wasn't true. But apparently, Donald Trump thinks it's fine when he doesn't help out the red states because, well, he doesn't need them anymore. He doesn't have a need for the red states. This is something that's going to slap back eventually. I've told you before, with Republicans, apparently it's going to take some catastrophe or cataclysmic economic event before they wake the fuck up. I guarantee you there are people in Mississippi, there are people in Missouri, there are people in Arkansas, there are people in Georgia, North and South Carolina. They're all waking up to find out what they voted for and how fucked they are because of it. As I've said, they can cry and whine about federal aid, but the fact of the matter is because Donald Trump is transactional, unless they've got something to give him, he doesn't give a fuck. He doesn't care. We've got the hurricane season coming up. There'll certainly be more tornadoes over the summer months. It will affect largely Republican states, red states that voted for Donald Trump. That said, there will be some blue states too that are affected. Nobody's getting help. And we'll see how people feel about it then. Will the Democrats want to rise up and push back? I would suspect so. Will the red state folks say, Donald Trump's a fucking piece of shit. Why did I vote for him? I'm sure they will say that too. And I'm sure there is some people out there that will say, we still love Donald Trump. It just takes time. No, if you're waiting for something to happen, you're going to be sadly disappointed. Sadly disappointed. Um, People in Congress are still working on this big, beautiful budget bill. And it's really funny. Mike Johnson came out and said, we are making cuts to Medicaid, Medicare, and such, but only to the waist. You mean like they did with the USAID or they did with the Department of Education? They go in with a fucking flamethrower, burn everything to the ground, and claim they're saving people money. They have yet to save this country or any of us taxpayers any money since Donald Trump took over as president. Sure, he's fired a lot of people, ended a lot of programs, but he's damaged a lot of people in the process. He stopped sending federal food and aid to foreign countries, but he also completely took a shit on the farmers. And does he recognize that he made a mistake and fix it? No, he doesn't. You're going to have to fucking tough it out, and that's just too bad. But here's what I'm wondering about Donald Trump, because Donald Trump keeps talking about this big, beautiful bill. And I don't know if he's just flat out lying and he knows better, or he just doesn't know. He said not cutting 10 cents. Trump makes a tone deaf brag as Medicaid is being gutted. Donald Trump on Saturday bragged to West Point graduating class that he'd refused to cut Pentagon spending and touted his push for an annual military budget of $1 trillion, arguing the other programs should be on the chopping block instead. Some people say, could you cut it back? I said, I'm not cutting 10 cents, the president said of the Pentagon, spending during his bizarre campaign-style commencement address. So while he's looking at increasing the military budget, a budget that far exceeds the next 5 or 6 um, countries around the world. The only reason we're spending as much as we do on military is because there's a lot of money being made by the military industrial complex. It's all a grift. We don't need that much money in the Defense Department. We don't need tax breaks for oligarchs and billionaires. We don't need more money in the military. But Donald Trump says we can cut plenty of other things, Trump added, without specifying what he sees as better targets for the cuts than the Pentagon, a sprawling morass of waste and abuse. In addition to that, he continues to say that we're not cutting anything from Medicaid or supplemental nutrition programs like SNAP. He insists on that constantly. People are confronting him with that now. You said you wouldn't cut Medicaid or Medicare, and now you're doing it. No, we're not. We're not cutting anything out of Medicaid or Medicare. And that's my question here. The question is he just flat out lying? Is he just trying to hoodwink or gaslight people? Or does he not know? I tend to believe he doesn't know because I think the people around him tell him what he wants to hear and are terrified at the prospect of telling him something that might make him angry. So he's in the dark about a lot of stuff, which isn't good news if we have a president of the United States that doesn't know what he's talking about, which is clearly the case with Donald Trump. Now, Donald Trump has a special plan, a special pet project for the Department of Defense. Military spending boost, which critics slammed as unnecessary and detrimental, is aimed at promoting Trump's priorities, such as his proposed Golden Dome, an idea that experts have dismissed as a fantasy. It is also a major opportunity for profiteering. Reuters reported that last month that Elon Musk's SpaceX has emerged as one of the front runners to build a crucial part of that system. We also hear that Elon Musk kind of played a part in these tariffs too. We know the tariffs don't work, and I think most Republicans know that, but they're trying to make it look good and try to make it look like they're doing something. But in addition to just the bullshit they're trolling out there, um, it's now being found out that when they're negotiating, if they are actually negotiating with anybody, they're telling them, listen, man, listen, here's the deal. You hook up and you sign a contract with Starlink, Elon Musk's satellite system, well, then we'll go a little easier on the tariffs. That in itself is a crime. It is a fucking crime. And stuff like this um, will come out in the end. It will be exposed. And there are people like Elon Musk and the people around him that don't have immunity. And that's going to be a problem for him because when Democrats get control, and they will, there's going to be investigations. When Democrats have a decent attorney general, there will be indictments as well. I was going to mention one thing too. Representative Glenn Ivey, a Democrat, traveled to El Salvador to meet Kilmar Abrego Garcia, much like the previous reps and senators did. Well, this time he was told, you can't come in. Well, that's interesting. Why would that be? He needs to put a little more pressure on this shit because they should be able to see them. You know, if our government is paying for that prison, and we're paying for that prison, we should be allowed to see the conditions and the condition of the prisoners. Supreme Court has basically demanded that they bring Kilmar Abrego Garcia back to this country. Donald Trump has refused to do it. And I think we're getting close in these court cases. Hopefully this week we'll see something. I think the judges are getting a little annoyed by the fact that they're basically in contempt of court. And if somebody's in contempt of court, they're going to have to do something about it. Somebody's going to have to pay the price. It's not going to be Donald Trump, probably not even going to be Marco Rubio, but those lawyers and the other handlers in and around Donald Trump and the lawyers are going to end up being punished for this. There's no question about it. That is definitely going to happen. It has to happen. You can't continue to allow people to deny or refuse to follow court orders. Something has to be done. The biggest problem we have, though, is with Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, who is basically a puppet of Donald Trump, will not do anything as far as filing charges, criminal charges, or anything like that. But there is another option. You don't have to file criminal charges. You can file civil charges. And those civil charges could be heavy fines. They could be sanctions. They could be disbarments and that sort of thing. And as I've said before, that's what you've got to do. You've got to do whatever you're going to be able to do in hopes of stopping this thing. You've got to take the legs out from under Donald Trump in order to ultimately stop him. This is not going to be a quick thing if the Democrats are the only ones that are doing it. We're seeing Republicans starting to push back now. They're starting to feel the heat. They're starting to realize that this is going to cost them dearly come the midterms. We're seeing people in the Republican side push back. We're going to have to come to a point when the majority push back. And that's why I've told you before, everybody talks about Democrats coming up with articles of impeachment. It's a waste of time. It doesn't mean anything. As long as Mike Johnson is in control of the House, he won't bring it to the floor. Nothing is ever going to happen when the Democrats do it. But it's when the Republicans decide they've had enough. I honestly thought they would have had enough by now, but apparently not. We're going to have to wait it out and see what happens with these fucks and see if they actually ever do anything to Donald Trump or they just go over the cliff with him. Because as I've told you before, this will end, and this will end badly for Donald Trump and anybody supporting Donald Trump. You would hope they'd want to do something to save themselves. But at this point, it doesn't look like they're willing to do that. So we just have to wait and see what's going on. Continue to do what we do. Keep the narrative loud and in their face. Keep talking about the crimes they commit. Keep questioning these people. And if in the midterms, the Democrats get control of the House and hopefully the Senate, I'll tell you what's going to happen. It's what I mentioned yesterday, I think. If you think by us getting the control of the House and the Senate that things are going to happen, well, some things will happen, but nothing of any importance because whatever gets passed in Congress certainly will not be signed by Donald Trump. However, with control in Congress, we can have a lot of investigations, a lot of hearings questioning these people. And we've seen recently what Donald Trump's cabinet members, how well they do when they're being questioned by Democrats, have real hard questions to ask, and they don't typically have answers. So we'll see what happens. All right, I'm doing this early. As I told you, this is going to be shorter than usual. Tomorrow, today, actually, we'll get back to normal and things will be the same. We'll have some guests and all that sort of thing. But this has been a long motherfucking day. And playing at the park is a lot harder work than you can fucking imagine. I'll be honest with you, it's not been easy. So I want to thank you for taking the time to listen. I hope you have a great day, and we will talk to you again tomorrow.